Sud Science.
Present.
Councillor Darianani, Senate Caucus. Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Zhang, Science. Darianani, Senate Caucus.
Present.
SMU President.
Present.
VP University Affairs.
Present.
VP Student Life.
Present.
VP External has been is absent and explained, and VP Finance.
Yep, here.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve, and they are item 4A, Legislative Council Public Minutes 2020-0908. The minutes have been distributed. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes at this time? Please either indicate so by raising your hand and I will recognize you, or preferably by the speaking list. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, point of personal privilege. I'd just like to leave and rejoin the call so that my name will display properly. Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll note the temporary departure of Councillor Reid at 1812. Councillor Kunzen.
It's just a signal. It's a tiny detail, but there are 2 dashes between my names, so my legal name is misspelled in the minutes, as well as on the attendance sheet. It's just for future reference.
All right, we'll note that. We'll make that correction in the minutes. Are there any other changes? Minutes and the attendance, my apology. Are there any corrections, further corrections or amendments to the minutes at this time?
Not for my part.
Seeing no further corrections or amendments needing to be made, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Just for clarification, when you do motion, please say, like, I motion followed by your name, just because it's hard for me to tell who's speaking. So can I have a motion at this time?
I motion. Oh, do you want to get the chair?
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Crossett. Can I have a second?
I second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, these minutes will stand approved as amended. Moving on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. The agenda has been distributed. Are there any corrections or changes to the agenda at this time? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
The agenda as distributed from Sept Smith Arts.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Can I have a second?
I second. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williamson. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the agenda will also stand approved. Moving on to item 6, report of the steering committee. I may need an extension on my time, so when I get to that point, I will ask. Moving on to item 6. So the steering committee for Legislative Council reviewed the submissions for this evening's meeting at 3:30 p.m. EST. My apologies, I was putting in my local time zone, 3:30 EST on September 18, 2020. I was present along with Parliamentarian Wong, Speaker on Call Lee, Councillor Reid, and Councillor Smith. Governance Manager and President Earl sent regrets. We had no guest speakers this meeting. New business, you can see that these new businesses, they were reviewed by us for formatting, stylistic, spelling, and grammatical changes. And so we have three items on new business tonight. They are motion regarding equitable communication practices. That's been renamed to motion regarding the amendment to the equity policy concerning equitable communication practices 2020-0924. Motion to call a special referendum 2020-0924, and motion regarding the creation of the Black Affairs Committee 2020-0924. Moving on to business arising, these motions were previously presented as notices of motions at the last council, and thus will have now returned to be scrutinized, questioned, debated, and voted upon at this evening's meeting. We have 2 items this evening. We have the motion regarding the adoption of the Human Resources Policy 2020-0908, as well as the motion regarding amendments to the internal regulations of elections and referenda 2020-0908. For the steering committee innovations, there are quite a few this evening, so bear with me, everyone. The first item we'd like to discuss is consent vote. We believe that there was some sort of miscommunication last week, as there has been prior. I would like to remind councilors that consent, as per this legislative council, as well as just wait. I'm going to note the return of Councillor Lee at 1816. But returning to the consent vote, as we do have all legislative councils, we've slated a period for a consent vote to occurring, I believe, on item 10. So please note that this is an opportunity to vote on the motions up for approval at Legislative Council this evening before they have the opportunity to be duly scrutinized, questioned, debated, and voted upon. This in turn provides you an opportunity to vote in favor in motions that you believe are not contentious and thus you do not believe that are necessary to subject to scrutiny, questioning, and debate. I would like to remind you, please be thoughtful with the way that you vote. If you do not believe a motion to be contentious / necessary to be scrutinized, and or if you know that you will not be participating in question period or debate, either vote, approve, or abstain. Only in cases which you thoroughly believe that deliberation is necessary should you vote debate. We believe that there was a misunderstanding at last Legislative Council because an individual had voted debate on everything when in fact there was no debate or question period to be had on any of the motions. And once again, if you have any questions on consent vote when you're actually voting, please let me know if you need further clarification. As well, for councillors and executives, please ensure that you are submitting reports through PDF. When sharing motions with the parliamentarian, please ensure that you have granted both the parliamentarian, so parliamentarian@smu.ca, and the speaker at smu.ca, editing privileges, and if possible, make them the additional owners of the document. As well, please ensure that you are abiding by the report deadlines. So for councillors, this is the Sunday prior to Legislative Council at 11:59 p.m. EST to be submitted to parliamentarian@smu.ca. For executives, this is Tuesday prior to Legislative Council at 11:59 p.m. EST to parliamentarian@smu.ca. Please ensure that you are also submitting reports to the parliamentarian, or you are free to CC me. Please ensure that the parliamentarian is also included in the email, as I have the discretion to say that it was not validly submitted. As well, comments, questions, as always, comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome, and they may be sent to me at speaker@smu.ca. Lastly, there is no confidential session this evening, and we will now go into question period. Yes, Councillor Daryanani.
Apologies, but this question's not really pertinent to the steering committee report, but rather about the agenda and the minutes that we just approved mainly. Is it okay if I ask my question?
Yeah, Councillor Daryanani.
So my question is that I do spot some errors in the minutes from last council. I don't know what's the procedure. If is it too late to voice them out now?
You're going to have to vote to suspend the rule, so we're going to require 2/3.
Okay.
So we have a motion to suspend the rules in order to return to approval of the minutes. Can I have a second?
Seconded. Frizzle.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. We're going to be conducting a poll via Zoom. So give me one moment, everyone. Actually, my apologies. Given that this is not abstainable, when you click on participants, there is an option there is a thing that says yes, and there is an option that says no. If you click on that, just indicate yes, as in you are in favor of suspending the rules, or no, you are not. I'll give you like a minute to do so.
Madam Speaker, there's a poll submitted. I don't have that yet.
Sorry, Councillor Smith, there is no formal poll. When you go onto participants, underneath participants, there's a little green icon and a little no icon that says like a green and a red icon. One says yes, one says no. You just need to click on one of those.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Daryanani, we're going to vote. I'm going to be disabling the chat because this sort of crosstalk within the chat is unpermissible. You know, in normal council that we would not be allowing this sort of this sort of interventions via the chat, however informal they may be. So we're going to be disabling the chat.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
All right, with the 2/3 majority, we are going to be returning to item 4, approval of the minutes. Councillor Daryanani.
Hi, apologies everyone for having to return to procedural motion. But I noticed in the minutes that neither question that I asked at the previous council has been reflected in the minutes. As far as I can recall, one question that I asked to the president was regarding the tech drive and what it means. And the second one was to the VP Finance regarding the opening of GERTS. And while I do understand that maybe these questions are simply points of clarification for my personal knowledge or for council's knowledge, I still believe that the minutes should reflect them as that's how the council went, rather than simply saying that there were no questions asked.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any further amendments to be made at this time? Hearing none, can we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended from Arts Representative Smith.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Can I have a second?
Seconded. Nid Caucus.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Karasik. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved. All right, moving on. I'm just going to note for all individuals with with clarifications, more so targeted towards Councillor Daryanani, and actually no, Councillor Kunzen as well. Regarding the minutes, please email governance@smu.ca so those changes can be reflected. But Councillor Kunzen, regarding attendance, I will make those changes, or the parliamentarian will make those changes themselves, as well as Councillor Smith, to your previous inquiry. I'm also going to note for my clarification from the chat, if you need to reach me or the parliamentarian, you are free to do so. Continue to use the chat. Just we don't want to, even though it's a virtual sort of crosstalk, it's still as disruptive, especially for me having to look between screens. But if you need to use it to contact any member of the dais, you are free to do so. All right, moving on back to item 6, report of the steering committee. We have one question from Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Just a little clarification on the consent voting. If you vote to abstain, that's not withholding consent, correct?
Yeah, if you vote abstain, it's simply as if you didn't vote. You voted, but your vote is ultimately not going to determine if we, if it goes into, if it's scrutinized, questioned, and debated upon. All right, seeing no further questions for the report of the steering committee, we're going to move on to item 7, guest speakers. There are no guest speakers this evening. Moving on to item 8, announcements. I will begin with the first announcement. All individuals wishing to follow up, for the announcement from the speaker from the dais, we have 2. We would first like to recognize, I believe she's not present, but we are pleased to announce that the Music Undergraduate Student Society Students Association has elected a representative, Mitra Kodadati, and she will be serving as the representative for music going forward. We would also like to make aware that Councillor Roy from social work has resigned, and thus currently the seat for social work is vacant, as well as the spots that Councillor Roy served on the committees. Moving on to further announcements, we'll first recognize the VP University Affairs.
Hey folks, so this is just a quick announcement from the Enrollment Student Affairs Advisory Committee. It's just a note on medical notes for the coming exam season. For December 2020 final exams, medical notes issued from health practitioners licensed outside of Canada will be accepted. So your medical note does not need to be from a Canadian health professional in order for it to be accepted. They're also just generally widening their range of acceptability for medical notes, basically to accommodate the current pandemic. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. VP University Affairs, SMU President.
Thanks. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that the Office of the going to release Miguel's plan to address anti-racism by September 30th. So that's going to happen between this council and next council. So I just want to encourage everyone to look out for that, read it, and I expect it to be discussed at next council, and then hear everyone's thoughts on that. Thank you
very much, SMU President. Seeing no further individuals with announcements, we'll move on to item 9, question period. We have no formal questions submitted, but if there's any individuals with question period wishing to participate in general question period at this time, they can either, for the members of the gallery, can raise their hand, or alternatively, they can indicate so on the speaking list. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, recess and consent items. Once again, if anyone needs a further clarification on what a consent vote is, you can feel free to ask me, as well as refer back to the report of the steering committee, and we'll provide you 5 minutes to do so. And the voting form is now open, everyone. All right, we will note that the 2-minute reset, the 2-minute extension has been exhausted. I am pleased to announce that 3 motions were able to pass by consent. They were the motion regarding the adoption of the human resources policy, motion to call a special referendum, and the motion regarding the creation of the Black Affairs Committee. The 2 motions that did not receive the consent vote was motion regarding amendments to the internal regulations of elections and referenda, as well as the motion regarding amendments to the equity policy to ensure equitable communication practices 2020-0924. As such, though, the motions that have not received consent vote will continue to be placed under scrutiny for question period, debate, and for voting later this evening. All right, moving on with item 12A being, sorry, my apologies. We're going to move on to item 11, SMU Daycare Board. To speak on this, we have the VP Student Life.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. So essentially, or thank you, Speaker. So the SMU Daycare Board every year elects or requires one member of Legislative Council to sit on the board. So essentially, the responsibilities of this councilor would be to manage all the like legal and financial responsibilities of the SMU Daycare, which is its own organization. It's its own private organization that essentially serves like 40 different children in the daycare, and then I believe like around 10 in the nursery. So your responsibilities would be attending like a monthly board meeting, which takes place the last week of each month. It's just a 1-hour meeting that happens for that week. What else could I really say about the board? It's a pretty, I would say it's an exciting experience because you get to deal with the SMU Daycare, which is, you know, its own entity, and you get to do all the like financial and legal, I guess, tasks and like oversee all of those for the board. And yeah, we're looking for one counselor who's interested in this responsibility. Yeah, and if folks are interested, please contact the speaker. I think that's the way that we're doing this here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So any individual that's interested, you can just email me at speaker@smu.ca. If there's more than one individual interested, regardless, I will let the VP Student Life know, and then she'll be responsible for further selection. If there is only one individual interested, we can deal with that directly. Yep. So we're going to entertain questions on that. So yeah, Councillor Daryanani.
Hi, I was just wondering if there are any eligibility criteria. Perhaps you have to be Canadian or a PR.
VP Student Life?
Oh, that is a great question. Yes, I do believe for the SMU Daycare Board that you have to be a Canadian citizen, that you have to be Canadian citizen to sit on the board. It also requires a police check too before you're able to sit on the board. However, if you're able to, I need to double check this information. So if you're still interested, I would send an email to the speaker anyway, and then we can see if you'd be eligible.
All right, thank you very much. Yep, Councillor Bullhose.
I guess I'm wondering if there's any training or like assistance that will be given, considering there's like the legality and the financial concerns, like if we don't really have too much experience in that regard, if there'll be like training or just like mentorship during the thing.
VP Student Life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are able to provide you with a presentation on the SMU Daycare Board. That's what myself and the VP University Affairs both received, was a presentation from the daycare director who explained like the ins and outs of the operations of the board and also our responsibilities. So yeah, we are happy to provide a presentation to whoever is selected to be the board member. We can do that for you.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no further individuals with questions, just a reminder, if you are interested, you can feel free to email me either during council or after. We'll give a deadline perhaps Saturday at 11:59 p.m. EST to let me know, and we'll go accordingly. Moving on to item 12, business arising. Given that item 12A has been approved, we are going to move directly onto the motion regarding amendments to the IRs of elections and referenda 2020-0908. Given that this was moved by the SMU president at the last legislative council, we will not be returning to provide a second motivation. Instead, we will be moving straight on to question period. So all individuals with questions can indicate so on the speaking list. All right, seeing no individuals with questions, we'll move on to debate. All individuals wishing to participate in debate can indicate so on the speaking list. Seeing no individuals wishing to participate in debate, we're going to move on to a vote. I will just open this up quickly. And the form is now open, counselors. All right, we are going to wait 15 more seconds because we're waiting on one more individual. All right, we'll announce the closure of voting. With 18 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstaining, the motion is unanimously approved. All right, thank you very much. Just before proceeding any further, just for clarification for counselors, just because I forgot to indicate this in the announcements, if you do have to leave, especially if during a recess, I would appreciate you indicating so via a point of personal privilege, as opposed to doing it via the chat, to make it easier for the recording secretary, as well as to ensure that our numbers in order to ensure that we maintain quorum. But moving on to item 3, we only have one item for approval now this evening with the passing of the consent items. We have item 13A, motion regarding amendments to the equity policy to ensure equitable communication practices 2020-0924. To speak on this for up to 2 minutes, we have the VP University Affairs.
Hey folks, thank you, Speaker. Right, so this motion is essentially arising from some concerns that were raised over the past few years regarding the recurrence of tone policing and general inaccessibility in SMU politics. I think since at least 2016, there have been repeated articles in the Tribune and the Daily citing concerns from female SMU representatives concerning essentially the pattern of tone policing. And for, I guess, yeah, for anyone's information, tone policing is generally accepted definition is any kind of personal attack or anti-debate tactic, which is essentially based on criticizing the way that an individual presents their arguments, for example, like their word choice or their tone, rather than criticizing the actual argument itself. So over the past year, there's been, I guess, like rising tension and concern around the use of decorum as a way to shut down debate or to shut down passionate speakers, and the fear of tone policing, especially for oppressed, marginalized, and sidelined individuals. So this motion, if it would pass, would amend the equity policy to add a clause surrounding tone policing, which would essentially protect an individual's ability to express themselves through whichever tone or word use they so choose, provided that provided that what they're saying isn't breaking the equity policy. So obviously this would not protect against hate speech, harassment, discrimination, abusive language, personal attacks. It also doesn't apply in office settings or any kind of like professional setting where it might, raise concerns with HR. So essentially, this is to protect the ability of representatives of the SMU to use really whatever word choice they like in order to make their arguments passionately.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. With that being motivated, we are now going to enter into question period. All individuals with questions, you can either indicate so on the speaking list. For members of the gallery, you can indicate so by raising your hand. I'll give 15 more seconds. Councillor Collins, is that for question period or debate?
Sorry, debate.
Okay.
All right.
All right, seeing no individuals wishing to participate in question period, we'll now move on to debate. All individuals wishing to participate in debate can indicate so on the speaking list, or if you are a member of the gallery, by raise of hands. We'll first go towards Councillor Daryanani.
Hi, I'd just like to speak in favor of this motion. I think it's a great initiative led by the VPUA. And I really think that student politics has in the past been very inaccessible for BIPOC and other marginalized communities such as women. And I think it is council's responsibility to make sure that we're able to provide a safe space in the right manner and still upholding SMU's values, but at the same time to ensure that we're able to have that freedom of expression. So I would really encourage council to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Daryanani. Councillor Karasik.
Yeah, I'd also like to speak in favor of this motion. I think it's very much exactly what we need, laying out the times that it makes sense to make sure this is protected while not making it something like, say, extra stuff in terms of like workplace, in terms of office, whatever. But this does put a very important role, especially because we can get such very important, delicate, and emotionally charged issues arise in council. I think it's very important that we do have this protection in place so that we're not able and we don't tone police people in the process when these very emotionally charged issues come up. And inevitably, these do get emotional.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Karasik. Councillor Collins.
Yeah, I really want to pass this motion as well. I think that it's really important. From my understanding, it seems to be a little bit like two-pronged. So there's one element about tone policing, and then there's another element kind of about accessible language. So one kind of concern / question that I did have was just under the appendix, clause 1.51. I was just looking at this, and it seems as though there's a bit of room for interpretation between just with like A and B, because I believe that they could possibly contradict each other. I just was hoping for a little bit more clarification if I could get it, because what I'm seeing is that A says that profanity can be used to expressively illustrate or evoke emotion, but then B is, so long as that conduct doesn't violate the equity policy. Basically, the equity policy outlines in 3.1 that harassment is defined as any behavior or comment that demeans or causes personal, psychological, or social harm to an individual or group. And from what I have witnessed in SMU, just through watching Ledge Council last year, was that harassment, in my opinion, has most certainly occurred on Legislative Council. And I recall such comments and behaviors being directed in particular to the dais, and the dais is non-voting and apolitical, so that's really unnecessary. So I was kind of hoping to get some more clarification about how we can make A and B work together a little bit more, because I see some room for interpretation there that ideally shouldn't be, just so we can really foster like a respectful environment where profanity wouldn't be being used in a way that would constitute harassment. So that's a concern that I do have.
Right. So I can, well, obviously I'm speaking in favor of this motion. I can try to address some of those concerns. So yeah, I do recognize that it's kind of a difficult line to walk between protecting an individual's right to express themselves freely, like however they choose, whether that's passionately, emotively, or just, plain spokenly. I think with subsection B, like my attempt there was really to assure that while someone is free to express themselves, like in a very, I guess, abstract sense, that would not, I get like what I'm trying to portray there is that this protection would not extend to any kind of like directed attack against an individual. So while it's okay to, for example, perhaps use profanity in reference to systems of oppression or systems of oppression or institutionalized racism, for example, that rather than that, for example, like targeting profanity at the dais would not be acceptable, like as a personal attack. And I think that while there is of course, some ambiguity, like it is a bit of a difficult line to walk, I think that sections, I think that clause like 1.5.1 and subsection B do as much as I was able to clarify like where exactly this would apply without making it overly limiting.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. Councillor Reid.
Hi there. I appreciate the background rationale component of this motion, particularly with respect to recontextualizing profanity when it comes to the public side of SMU and the public side of student government. I recall the original background of this pertained to the use of profanity in communications that were targeted at McGill or at the McGill administration. But I am concerned, similarly to Representative Collins, about the context in which profanity is used and perhaps a need for a greater degree of precision in this motion in terms of delineating where profanity is actually appropriate, or where it where people ought to have the capacity to express themselves, or where it can actually be used to further silence other members. We already spoke about this with respect to things being words of profanity being targeted at the dais, but I've myself been in many workplaces where I've seen male coworkers target profanity in rather disturbing ways at female or femme-presenting coworkers of mine. And it's important to me that we have a clear contextualization, that we bear in mind the contexts in which we want to approve of or disapprove of profanity. Clearly, when it comes to large-scale communications that are targeted at systems, or targeted at, say, the McGill administration, calling back to the background of this sort of controversy, I think it is also important that we still recognize that decorum does have a place when it comes to
Thank you very much, Councillor
each
Reid.
other and debate.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Reid. Councillor Collins.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree with Councillor Reid that contextualizing or explicitly stating where and when profanity is allowed is super important, and that's something that I personally, like to see in the motion. I'll keep this quick as well. I was just sort of wondering, VP University Affairs, Fizzle, you said that it does not apply to like workspaces within SMU, but I mean, does that mean legislative council, it wouldn't be an HR liability because we do pay, SMU does pay, you know, the speaker. We have, you know, the dais who are employees of SMU. So I just would like a little bit, I guess, of clarification about how we wouldn't have like an HR liability on our hands, you know, within the context of Leg Council.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Collins. Before proceeding further, we're just going to note the arrival of the new music representative at 1857. Moving on, we'll continue with debate, and we'll recognize VP University Affairs.
Thank you, Speaker Hill. Right. So again, it's a very difficult line to walk. Like I know personally, I spent, the steering committee and I spent quite a bit of time like going over the wording of this motion, trying to come up with something that was both succinct and also like in depth. I think, I mean, through like subsections A through C, that was my best attempt to both set up like where this would be appropriate, like in cases to like evoke emotion, illustrate severity, like speak with passion. Obviously not in cases where like that would be a violation of the equity policy. So any targeted attacks, hate speech, etc. And clause C, like the wording is such that it's discouraged in office settings. So for example, like in the SMU office, to be honest, I think that in combination of subsections B and C, that could be interpreted in such a way that like it extends protections to the dais as they're acting in a professional setting. That being said, if Councillors Collins or Reed have a wording that they would prefer to see or would like to introduce an amendment, I would welcome that as well.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. There are currently no individuals slated to participate in debate. All individuals wishing to can indicate so on the speaking list. I'll give 15 more seconds. VP University Affairs.
I'll also just say that I realize that this is kind of one of the really like a new frontier in terms of the equity policy. Like it is usually more a procedural document for complaints, and getting into these specific kinds of protections is kind of a new like and somewhat untested frontier. So I realize that like in terms of its interpretation, either by us like practically, or for example like by the judicial board, that there is still going to be some ambiguity that needs to be cleared up. I don't know if it's possible to have like a perfect motion when we've never really entered it, like when we've never really solidified these kinds of protections before. That being said, it is still just an amendment to a policy. If at some point in the future we realize that like it's not working, this isn't like the hill that I'm going to die on in terms of making sure that people can use profanity whenever they want. So it is, of course, going to be like a working document that we can amend at some point in the future if we realize that this isn't working. However, I think at this point, at least like from my perspective, with as much time as I've spent on this, like I've been working on this motion basically the whole summer. This is as good as I could get it at this point. And I think that for now, for our purposes, like it offers a sufficient amount of both interpretability and precision in the fact that it is fit to be enacted. That's not to say that it can never be amended, but I think that for now, I think that it's ready for approval.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. Seeing no other individuals wishing to participate in debate, we will move forward with a vote. I'm just going to note for councillors, this was a common reoccurrence last year as well. Say if we're in a situation in which we're voting on this, and if it's saying voting is not yet open, or you are not, I'm not sure what the official one is, but if it's not letting you vote, if we are currently on it and I have said that the forum is now open, then you should be able to vote on it. And if it's not showing up, simply refresh your Google Drive, the Google form, and you should be able to vote. And voting is now, the form is now open, councillors. Okay, everyone continue voting, but for the music representative, since this is your first council, I'll just go through how to get there. So we're going to go on to your shared drive. You're going to go onto your shared drive, and it's going to have a folder called Legislative Council. You're going to click Legislative Council. You're going to click the 2020 to the 2021 folder, and you're going to proceed to the folders until you reach the 2020-0924 folder. Within that general folder, there's going to be a form called Councillor Voting Directions, and within that, there's going to be a link of all the forms eligible to be voted on this evening, and you can click through there. All right, we'll give 15 more seconds. All right, we have reached quorum, so thus we'll conclude voting. With 15 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 abstained, the motion is approved. Moving on to item 14, reports by committees. We have one committee up to report tonight. We have the executive committee. So SSMU president, you may present.
May I ask for just a minute to pull it up? Sorry.
Yep. Can we have a 30-minute? Can we have a 1-minute recess?
Motion to call 1-minute recess.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Can I have a second?
Seconded, Collins.
Thank you very much, Councillor Collins. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the 1-minute recess will be approved. All right, with the 1-minute recess exhausted, SSMU president, do you have the document ready?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, SSMU president.
All right, so I won't go through everything in detail, but it was a busy summer, even though it was remote and everything was online. So we signed on to a few open letters. There was CRAR's press release on anti-racism, which the VP External had attended as well and assisted with in their capacity. We signed on to a petition for solidarity across borders. There were numerous hirings throughout the executive committees for the various services, so I'm not going to go into those in detail. I'm just trying to pull up like what I think can draw your attention to, so that we approve like the MOU between SSMU through the SRAC and the Department of Physics. There were some more hirings for the June 11th. Nothing special for June 18th or June 25th. For July 2nd, so Simon Fraser University released an open letter, and we're doing a lot of campaigning for, opposing the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. So we signed on to their open letter as well. Signed on to the Defund the Police Coalition. Let's see what else is going on. There was the BIPOC McGill released their open letter for the De Soto Faculty of Management. So we signed on to that open letter as well to support them. Yeah, there were a couple paid things paid for like activities night, promotional, like promotions for social media. So let me know if you have any questions specifically on any points throughout the executive committee. I tried to like bring attention to what I thought is like anything like more important than just like a regular hiring. But yeah, let me know.
All right, thank you very much, SSMU President. All individuals with questions on the report of the executive committee can indicate so on the speaking list. All right, seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 15, reports by counselors. We first have item 15A, Counselor Litvina, Arts and Science. So Counselor Litvina, when you're ready, you are free to speak for 3 minutes.
So the SSMU meeting was just not really much major happened, though we had a referendum to bring constitutional amendments, just because ACES is currently undergoing the constitution and name change. And as well, we are planning on adding an equity commissioner and as well a National Integrated Research Conference committee to the VP jump.
Counselor Litvina, we'll just note that I believe your audio cut out.
Is it audible now?
Yep.
Okay. As well, we're starting immediate roaming applications for a CEO because of the referendum change. We are forming an academic committee. The listservs are just being sent out, and the website, we should have our website up in a month. And finally, FASC, which is our first year council, is going to be starting up soon, and we're going to be finishing accepting applications on the 30th.
Right, thank you very much, Counselor Litvina. Are there any questions on the report of the Arts and Science representative? Seeing none, we'll move on to the report 15B, Counselor Morgan. I don't believe she's in attendance this evening. As such, can we have a motion to postpone her report until next legislative council?
Motion to postpone, Counselor Collins.
Thank you very much, Counselor Collins. Can I have a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead.
Seconded by Counselor Williamson.
Thank you very much, Counselor Williamson. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion will stand. The presentation will stand postponed. Moving on to item 15C, we have report from Arts Counselor Smith. Counselor Smith, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'm just in advance, I'm probably going to need an extension of time. So hello, everyone. My name is Chip. I'm one of the 3 arts reps this year. I'm from St. John, New Brunswick, 4th year political science history major, and I've got a mild addiction to cool socks, which is a fun fact. So a few things to note. Legislative Council for AUS will be meeting on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. via Zoom every 2 weeks. This year's speaker is Kazia Nasrallah, and Ghana Javid will be our recording secretary. We had our first meeting on the 14th. We had 2 presentations, which was a State of the Society presentation and a Robert's Rules of Order presentation. We had 3 motions, one of which was passed, which was a motion to conduct meetings by Legislative Council, or Legislative Council by the Zoom teleconference, and the motion to ratify Executive Committee decisions and summer pay was pushed to the next meeting, and we had a meeting on the 22nd of September. This is a little out of date, so I apologize in advance. Some general business, we had departmental orientation on the 21st from 6 till 8. Thank you to everyone who came. We are currently renegotiating our MOA with admin. We've formed an ad hoc committee, which is the president, Ananya Nair, the VP Finance, Stefan Sujak, Smal Fabian, the VP Services, Councillor Collins, and myself. We're waiting for communication from DIPSL, but they've been a little quiet, so hopefully we'll get something soon. Our laptop lending program is going to become available. We're looking at restructuring the program with kind of overhauling lending protocols and looking at increasing device security. And we are waiting for laptops to be returned from students who still have them. Many do. Some are in Montreal, some are outside, so we're still working on that. Given semester is going to be online, locker rentals will not be happening this year. And we're currently contacting individuals who had lockers last year about how they get their stuff and what they want us to do with them. Let's go on again. So our audit is currently, scroll. Thanks. Perfect, yeah. So our audit was delayed until the 31st. It was supposed to be on the 20th of May is when it starts. We're looking at 4 months for that to go, and admin has confirmed that our fee statuses will not be changing, thankfully. Sadly, snacks will be closed for fall semester. We're currently looking at a possible winter reopening, but that is still to be determined. And our VP Finance is working with the manager of snacks to basically complete an overhaul of the inventory system and a possible debit machine by December 2020. Grad fair, and if there's questions, I can defer to Councillor Williamson on this because she probably would know more. Grad fair is going to be online. I believe it's the 4th of November. Meeting with CAPS to discuss a continued partnership, also working in collaboration with SUS, and invitations will be sent to schools in the next 2 weeks. Hiring, which is still, so hiring applications have closed and interviews are ongoing. Our FIRS, which is Freshman Events, Academic and Resources Committee, applications closed on earlier this week. So the VP Internal, Joy, is working at selecting that. And I just want to give a shout out to our entire AUS staff, Secretary General Christina, who has suffered through about 1 million emails from me, and our executive assistants, Julie and Sierra, for all their work adapting to our new normal. In terms of personal business, I sat on steering committee regarding about BombCom. We've not met yet. My office hours will be Tuesdays and Fridays.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Can I have a
motion to extend for it by about 45 seconds?
Okay, so Councillor Smith cannot motion that. Councillor Smith cannot formally motion that themselves, but if someone would like to make a similar motion, you can do so.
Motion
to extend by 45 seconds.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second?
Seconded by Councillor Wen.
Thank you very much. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, Councillor Smith, you may continue speaking for another 45 seconds.
Thank you. So my office hours are going to be Tuesdays on 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern, and Fridays from 2 till 3. If those times don't work, feel free to shoot me an email, arts3@smu.ca. I'm more than happy to set up a time. And my Zoom PM ID is on there. And last thing, I attended the PSSA's Fall 2020 General Meeting on September 17th. Thank you to the PSSA for organizing that. And I stand for questions.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Are there any questions on the report of the arts representative?
Yes, I have a question.
Councillor Karasik.
What socks do you have on today?
I called it, this question was going to come by someone. I'm wearing golf socks. They're green with like golf balls on them.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Karasik and Councillor Smith. Seeing no further questions for arts representative, we will move on to item 15D. We have the report from science representative, Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you, Speaker. My name is Lorna, and I'm one of the three science reps. So last Saturday, we had the departmental orientation day. We had sustainability training and ASPER's presentation, and also all departmental executives were trained on their roles. Burn site renovations should be starting in summer 2021. There's also going to be murals painted on the walls, and that should be starting by the end of September and should be done by winter 2021. We have started online office hours, but not many students are joining, so we are looking into potentially transitioning that to office hours by appointment. Online Fresh was successful. Participation was lower than we expected, but it was still successful. The SUS budget was presented yesterday at the General Council meeting. The SSEC, which is part of the sustainability portfolio, is looking into either selling or giving out reusable masks for students. The change of name from BASIC to ASUS is official. FUS appointed positions will be finished by the end of the month. They are currently working with past members to set up interviews and transition with the new members. The after hours this year are not being held in person because of COVID-19, and they're looking into alternative ways of holding a similar event. The SUS Charity Week is potentially happening on the week of November 9th. The committee is currently working on choosing a charity and transitioning that to a charity week online. And we looked into we did the signing of both the open letter to the Desautels School of Management by BIPOC Desautels and the open letter to McGill Administration by takejamesmcgilldown.com on behalf of the SUS.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Fernandez. If there's any questions on the report of the Science Councillor, you can indicate so via the speaking list. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to item 15, reports, item 15E, Councillor Reid, Engineering.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and good evening, councillors. I hope you're all staying safe and well this evening. My name is Jake. My pronouns are he, him, and I am one of the 2 engineering representatives to council this year. I hail from the United States and Malaysia, and I'm a U2 student in materials engineering with an aerospace minor. I'll get into the recent EUS affairs. Events and major processes are proceeding smoothly under the circumstances. Events like the tech fair are taking place over online platforms, of course, as opposed to in person, thanks to the circumstances, as well as ordinary EUS processes such as the council. On that note, the virtual EUS Council retreat took place this past Sunday. It included council orientation and a mock council where, as it says here, shenanigans ensued. I believe there is actually now, by a misunderstanding of the rules from the U4 mining rep, an official motion for an EUS parking lot in the works for next council. And I am looking forward personally to see how the environmental impact discussion on that goes. Of course, that concluded with an actual EUS council meeting where a fairly large motion that has been in the works for a while now, upwards of half a year, by members of our governance restructuring committee to essentially completely revamp EUS Council was passed. It restructures Council to essentially make it a more agile, but also a more level-headed organization and improve its relationship with the Board of Governors, which is a relatively newer decision-making body in the EUS. It shrinks the size of it a little bit by having a rotating UREP system, and also introduces new motion types and passing processes. These councils are going to take place bi-weekly, with the next one taking place on September 30th at 6 p.m. And our Speaker of Council is Owen Quinn. We have further governance restructuring efforts in the works. I'm personally very excited about them, having worked on them myself over the course of the summer, that will similarly make changes to the Board of Governors. And ideally, we are going to close out this next round of decision-making with a heavily improved EUS from a governance perspective that's going to help us improve the way we both expand our efforts, but also maintain our existing ones.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Reid. If there's any questions on the report of the engineering councillor, you can indicate so via the speaking list. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 16, executive reports. We'll first begin with item 16A, report of the president.
Hey everyone, so I'll give my report in French today, so I apologize in advance if there's any franglais. French was never my strong suit in school. Donc, pour la gouvernance, j'ai travaillé sur le calendrier du special referendum qui a été proposé plus tôt dans cette réunion avec l'aide de Election SSMU. Le responsable de la gouvernance et moi-même avons embarqué le nouveau chercheur sur les documents du gouvernance. So for advocacy and representation, j'ai assisté aux réunions de l'UCRU en l'absence du VP externe. Il travaille sur une campagne pour que le gouvernement réponde aux préoccupations concernant le financement des étudiants. Ils viendront également au Conseil législatif à un moment donné ce semestre pour faire une présentation sur ce qu'ils font. J'ai assisté aussi à l'orientation du Sénat et du Conseil supérieur, ça c'est Board of Governors. For sustainability, les commissaires travaillent sur un nouveau projet qui comprendra une série d'ateliers gratuits appelés Organizing Sustainability, qui seront associés à Skills 21 et le Co-Curricular Record. Le projet est centré sur le leadership en sustainability et comptera probablement des professeurs et des activistes communautaires pour animer les sessions. So for projects that I'm working on, j'ai eu des séances avec des SSMU services qui ont demandé des réunions supplémentaires. J'ai rencontré le commissaire aux affaires francophones pour parler de la révision du plan de francisation. Nous étions d'autres moyens de allocate des ressources pour pouvoir traduire tous les documents prévus dans le plan de francisation. For committees, la campagne de Centraide pour McGill va commencer le 13 octobre. Nous sommes à la recherche d'idées sur la façon dont nous pouvons engager virtuellement avec les étudiants. J'ai assisté aussi à des réunions pour la commission sénatoriale sur le développement physique ainsi que Life After Your Degree. Les exécutifs avons eu une réunion d'introduction avec Divest McGill pour parler de nos projets pour l'année, mais nous aurons bientôt une réunion suivie car il n'y avait pas beaucoup de discussions. J'ai aidé avec des webinars lors de la soirée activité. So huge shout out to Vice President Actor for putting on that event. It was well done. And lastly, it's not on the report, but j'ai assisté à la réunion des candidats au conseil de première année. So I attended the first year council candidates meeting. There are a lot of people running, which is great to see because we love student government. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, SSMU President, for the report. If there's any questions on the report of the SSMU President, you can indicate so via the speaking list. Seeing none, we will move on to item 16B, report of the VP University Affairs.
Hello, folks. A couple things. So the SRS, the final vote ended up occurring by email approval. So I can say all scholarships have been approved. That's dope. APC, unfortunately, our motion to re-implement the winter 2020 SU option failed. We did bring up this motion at Senate, and the principals resolved to hold an open house on academic accommodations going forward. Yes, the questions on harm reduction and athletic facilities funding actually ended up generating a lot of discussion. I'm very proud of our senators who did very well speaking in Senate. Go them. University advocacy, so policy on H&D, the finance policy, the current policy was reported on at Senate. The finalized policy will be brought to Senate for information in the coming months. So for some campaigns we're doing, so the campaign to remove Saltzman's Emeritus designation. So ASA is meeting with Anthropology Department and the Associate Provost. So I'm going to be giving updates on that as they come. Phil 237, SSMU, BSN, and the BLSA are meeting with the Provost and Dean of Arts, and PSA is currently handling discussions with the Department of Philosophy. The donation campaign to support Lebanese students is actually going really well. It's being organized between the Lebanese Students Association and the McGill Alumni Association. The RVH hospital, RVH project. I was at the student leaders consultation. I'm kind of impressed with their plans for the project, although there are a lot of gaps in terms of community involvement that I plan on continually questioning. Senate caucus, as Jamark said, as the president said, we all attended Senate orientation. Still waiting on elections for a nursing associate senator, and now I'm going to be contacting SWESA about electing a social work senator. Okay, for equity, still continuing. As the president said, the plan to address anti-Black racism, that Senate discussion, we discussed it at this Senate. It's going to be brought for information, I think, at October Senate. Harm reduction, ongoing conversation with the MU's VP floor fellow. Employment equity, the overhauled human resources policy was passed. That was amazing. I'm still working on wage subsidies for senators and counselors, meeting with the governance manager to further plan that. Bacon, still meeting bi-weekly. We're finalizing the member at large positions. We might add an extra position. That's still up for debate. For equity infrastructure, the equity policy amendment was approved. Amazing. Thank you, everyone. I'm still working on the equity triage with VP Student Life and still hiring for the Black Affairs Commissioner, but the terms of reference were approved. Also amazing. For special researchers, preferred names use, and also the Francophone Affairs researcher, both of their drafts are in the final stages, about to be up for graphic design and proofreading. And then our two new special researchers are beginning to do a comparative draft of both like our own policies and cross-university policies. For KYR, the USAP report was finalized.
Thank you very much, VP University Affairs. Can I have an extension on
Motion to extend time by VP University Affairs. How long do you need?
Like a minute.
Okay, motion to extend by 90 seconds.
Sorry, how long, Councillor Smith?
90 seconds.
80 seconds by a minute and a half. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Collins. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motions will stand approved.
Thank you so much. USAP report is finalized. We're going to be doing a huge press release. It was supposed to be today. It's going to be tomorrow, so look out for that. It's an amazing report. For research infrastructure, still working on the advisory board, and we finalized our decision for a professional survey and data storage platform. We're currently working out the details on the operations side, but that should be implemented soon, which is a big boost for like our independent research work. For libraries, I hope you've all seen like some of the OER promotional material. It's really cool. It has its own visual identity. Please check out SMU's Instagram page. And for the McGill Library Study Hubs, we're currently working with the library to develop the UC Study Hubs, basing our systems off of their security and social distancing protocols and their online booking platform. So you have that to look forward to. Oh, and also working with menstrual hygiene product coordinators to make sure that those study hubs are restocked.
All right,
and that is my report.
Thank you very much, VP University Affairs. If there's any questions on the report of the VPUA, you can indicate so via the speaking list. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 16C, the report of the Vice President Finance.
All right, thank you so much. So I'll start with general finances and accounting. So we've received student fees from McGill a little bit earlier than expected. So now I'm working with the accounting team to properly allocate those funds before October. The finance committee is tentatively set to have its first meeting on September 29th. Actually, that says 28th. That is incorrect. The audit is going well with only a few minor hiccups. The auditors are being extra thorough this year just because we didn't have a general manager for an extended period of time last year. And they just want to make sure everything was okay during that period. The accounting team is much busier than usual just because of all this, but managing everything okay considering the circumstances. Moving on to clubs and services finances. So starting with clubs. Clubs now have the ability to receive funds via Interact Transfer using a central club email. They do have to apply for this on the club's portal using a form. For virtual banking tokens, this is something I'm super excited about. RBC and SMU are exploring the possibility of implementing virtual banking tokens to replace the physical ones. This would function as an application on one's phone, and if successful, the implementation should happen this school year and greatly expedite the token transfer process for next year. The token return is going well still, and assuming all goes well or continues to go well, tokens are set to be transferred by September 30th to the new signing officers. And then for the club finance workshop, we had the first 2 sessions this past weekend. They went very well. Huge shout out to Maheen and everyone else who put work into that. They were great. For services, so service credit cards are being ordered this week. As of the time when I submitted this report, we were still waiting on a few services to provide ID, but we have basically all of them now. Along with the credit cards, we'll be sending out a reconciliation guide just so the services know what to present the VP Finance and Accounting each month for their monthly reconciliation. For budgets, so budget reviews are still planned to happen the first week of October. By this Friday, accounting indicated that they'll be able to generate the P&L reports from last year for services to use as a resource and kind of base their budgets on. For funding, so the funding committee had its very first meeting yesterday. We reviewed 4 funding applications, and thank you to everyone who made it. And right now reports are, per the terms of reference, brought to every council for ratification. You'll notice they didn't come to this council, but they'll be coming to the next one. And then for other things, so SPIN, which is currently in my portfolio, the member at large application for SPIN is currently open until the 30th. If you know anyone interested in event planning, tell them to apply. It's a lot of fun. Right now, we don't have any solid plans for events just due to COVID, but we are exploring the possibility of hosting some virtual ones, so stay tuned to that. And also, I'm currently in the process of working on a new casual staff position to go into the finance portfolio, just because I have some money left in my casual staff budget, and it will likely be related to accounting to support the accounting team. I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you very much, VP Finance. Are there any questions on the report of the VP Finance? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 16D, report of the VP Student Life.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. So I will get started with my report. So to begin, activities night. We recently had activities night. It was on September 9th and 10th. It happened totally online. And luckily there were very little like challenges that we had to incur, which was great, which was great. We had 3,500 attendees overall, 270,000 booth impressions for each of the individual booths that we had, which were around 300, and almost 1,200 messages that were shared between students and booths over the 2 days. Webinars were really useful to the folks who attended the webinars. From what I heard, and a big thank you to everyone who was able to participate in the webinars. I know we have a lot of people in this meeting today, in this council meeting, so thank you to all of you. For clubs, our clubs workshops just happened this past weekend on the 19th and 20th, and they're going to continue on the 26th. Thank you to the VP Finance who was able to deliver the finance workshop and part of the services summit. The club portal committee is another point that was fine. So we finalized that committee as a bi-weekly committee. It's comprised of folks from the operations department, the IT department, and communications. Hopefully we're aiming to have like a finalized clubs portal, ideally by like the winter semester for rollout, but we are still looking at our options, kind of starting from scratch, but also basing a lot of our information on the club portal committee that was developed last year and like sort of the work that was done last year. Beyond that, we were hiring a club website designer. And so the deadline was this week, and we'll be selecting candidates and doing interviews the next 2 weeks. And finally, the club committee is recruiting. We are looking for a club executive and a member at large. So look out for that. Now for services. So next week, the week of the 28th, we're helping folks move into the UC and specifically moving in people on the 4th floor. All the services should have been notified by now. And so I'll be helping with that move. Also, I'm working with the services administrative assistant, Jim, to do services review committee meetings once the services representative is elected. I'm also still developing those space agreements with groups that I spoke about last week, and I'm working with various other groups to help them become services. ISGs, I had some meetings with ISGs regarding insurance, and then also about like building related requests. And parliamentarian, if you could scroll down. Okay, great. So for events, we have our SEC meetings ongoing, which is the SMU event committee meetings. and we're really working through our new processes because of the level 3 or the orange zone alert that we had recently in Montreal. And we're still seeking alternatives to our high risk club activities like athletics and performing. And I met with like many groups about this topic. Moving on to mental health, the first mental health roundtable meeting was today. It went really well. Shout out to our mental health team who is doing an excellent job. The advocacy and outreach commissioners have chosen their committee members, and those committee meetings should be starting. And lastly, I'm hiring an eating disorder campaign coordinator under my portfolio in conjunction with the EDRSC. That's ongoing. Also for communications, the last hiring that I'm doing is the communications manager. So the first.
Thank you very much, VP Student Life. Can I have a motion to extend?
Motion to extend by how long, VP Student Life?
1 minute.
1 minute, so let's go 90 seconds.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
Councillor Bonin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonin. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the 1.5 minute extension has been granted.
Okay, yeah, I'll just finish it off. We're hiring a communications manager for family care. The first BOD meeting happened this week. More will come in the next, more BOD meetings will happen once a month. Also, the SSMU daycare has 2 spots open, so if you know anyone who needs spots in the daycare, please let me know or let the daycare director know. Also, we need a legislative counselor to be on the BOD. So again, if you're interested, please let the speaker know. And other things, I'm doing a webinar next week with Campus Life and Engagement for first years. And I've organized a team meeting between some staff in the clubs and services department, I guess, like in the de facto department, to delineate all of our responsibilities. That is all. I stand for questions.
All right, thank you very much. VP Student Life, are there any questions on the report? Seeing none, we'll move on. Given that, though, VP External, though he has been validly excused from this council due to extenuating circumstances and did not submit a report for this council, given that we did postpone his report from last week until this meeting, as per our governing documents, we do require a report can only be postponed once. And typically, if an individual from the executive is not present, another executive will present in their absence. So at this point, the dais would like to request that an executive, doesn't matter which one, would simply just present the report of the VP from last period.
I can present it on the VP External's behalf.
All right, thank you very much, VP University Affairs. We're also going to note the arrival of the Francophone Affairs representative at 19:39.
Désolé du retard, tout le monde.
Yep. Nice to see you, Councillor Guazda Amzil. Okay, moving on to the report from last period. We're just going to wait for the parliamentarian to pull it up.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, can you pull up the report from the VP External from last period? Okay, well, it appears that VP External did not submit it, which is, there's extenuating circumstances, so there's nothing to be done there. Thank you very much regardless. VP University Affairs.
Can I just make a quick point? I can like write it and present it on behalf of the VP External by next council if that's possible.
Well, the dais will consider it fine. I did correspond with VP External, so given the circumstances, we won't deem it necessary. But for future ones, if possible, to present any updates of the VP External, even if it's not done, even if it's not presented by the VP External, would be preferable. But I also understand the circumstances. So if it's not submitted, there won't be any sort of infraction imposed on any of the executive members. All right, with that, we're going to, Wing, can you pull up the agenda again? Sorry, I accidentally closed mine. All right, with that, we're going to move on to item 17, confidential session. There is no confidential session for this evening. Now, moving on to the last item on the agenda, item 18, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn at this time?
Guias de Amsel.
Thank you very much, Councillor Guias de Amsel. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonin. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, Legislative Council will come to adjournment at 1941.